Never had, like some kids, you say, one day you want to be a cowboy, the next day you want to be a fireman or something. I didn't even know, I didn't even know what writer meant. I didn't know what writer meant. All I know, I had a feeling for telling stories, and it seemed the more I read about them, the more people you could reach with your stories on paper than if you sat around talking to 5 or 6 people. The way my uncles used to do it. There were never more than 6 or 7 of us. We lived in a basement that was heated by a coal stove. I mean, something so archaic that you would have to go down to deepest Mississippi or somewhere to find something like that. But they would entertain themselves, they would entertain us in the evenings talking about things that may have happened or things that did happen, and great storytellers. When I was in high school, at about 15, a lady named Margaret Burroughs, who established the DuSable Museum of African American History, the first in this country, in Chicago, found that I was writing dirty little stories for people for $1 a piece. Get a real dirty story for $1.50. Or a note to this girl that you like for $2 or $1.50. And she sent me to a writing workshop. You talk about inspiration, she was both an inspiration and a brick upside your head, At the time, early on, I was about to get off into something real slick. I was talking good, I was smooth. I knew my way in and out and different things. I was coming up admiring a local pimp who had everything. My friend, my mentor, Big Al, put me in training for about 2 years. And then he just simply shook his head and washed his hand because I didn't have it. You are not going to ever be a good pimp, being kind. In Chicago, he was an inspiration too. Because after he discovered I was writing about what we were talking about, he made me promise at one point, well, hey man, I've introduced you to enough what the game is about, write about it. So I came up with 4 novels that dealt with a pimping dynasty, starting with Sweet Pea Dita. Our ancestors, Mr. First Pimp, brought the first hoe into the game righteously, put a bitch up on the corner of cotton field and make some money. Then we would come off smelling like roses. Pussy renews itself constantly. I came out really directly as a result of the Watts revolt that the mainstream press always wants to consider a riot. I think 92 was a riot, but 65 was a revolt against police oppression, negative social conditions everywhere. If you lived in Watts or in the surrounding area, I decided to go into the Watts Writers Workshop and quit my post office job and became a busboy, which was sort of a downward decline. I mean, the benefits and the medical plan and everything, none of that meant anything to me because if I kept working at the post office, I was not going to be able to write. The Watts Writers Workshop was the beginning for me. And the thing that made that such a rewarding experience is that you had so many people who were anxious to connect with you. We were writers who had been looking for each other to exchange ideas. The Watts Writers Workshop opened up quite a few doors. I wound up with an agent who took me to Bentley Morris at Holloway House for the publishing of the first novel I wrote, Ghetto Sketches. And I formed a relationship with Holloway House, not out of love, but out of sheer necessity and expediency. Holloway House was reaching the kind of constituency that I wanted to reach out to. So I wound up writing and having 17 of them published over like a 20-year period.
I first met Odie Hawkins. He was one of the main writers at Holloway House. Holloway House is the preeminent publisher of black street lit. Some of their authors were Iceberg Slim, Donald Goins, Joseph Nizel, and Odie Hawkins. Those four guys were the pillars of Holloway House and made it what it was. There was really nobody else that was actively publishing black writers that told stories about the street. You had other publishing houses that would publish a black author here and there, but that was really Holloway House's specialty. It was run by a gentleman named Bentley Morris.
Bentley Morris and Ralph Weinstock, two entrepreneurs. They made no claim for being in business to spread anybody's literary fame or anything like that. They wanted to make some money. And they were the first people that I can think of who came on the West Coast to begin to bring out black authors. There were a number of us, and we wound up with like what they wanted to call the Big Four. Iceberg Slim and his book Pimp Hit, Donald Goins, Joe Nizel, and myself. I said then, I'll say now, and I've been saying it all the while. It was both avant-garde and a drag at the same time. First of all, they did not want you to use African American or anything that indicated to them that you were some kind of militant. My argument with Bentley Morris and also with Weinstock before he died is that we just a casual check of our DNA would show that we come from Africa, of African descent. There's no place in Africa I can think of that's called black land or colored land or Negro land. I don't want to say I got lucky to have had 17 books published by Holloway House, but in a way I did get lucky. Now I can't think of any latter-day publisher that would publish 17 books by any black author, male or female. It's been explained to me by very level-headed publishers that this is purely a business decision. Black females are in bold, male writers are not. And that's what we go for. We want to have books sold in the marketplace by people who know who those authors are. You would have a difficult time trying to pinpoint 5 African American males who are being published on a regular basis now. And the same was happening then. It occurs to me that, you know, a lot of writers want to focus only on one genre. I've never been attracted to that. I think that whatever it is that I'm interested in, that I feel qualified to write about, I should write about. Being published by Print on Demand is a step or two above Vanity Press publishing. Number one, they do publish the books, they do put them out there for you via Amazon.com, Barnes and Nobles, and you can buy packages that will give you greater publicity in other areas. With the Print on Demand thing in place, which means I don't have to write a book, send it to an agent in New York, wait 2 years before he or she decides to say, well, maybe we might push this for you. You don't have to do that. You can do it yourself. So I'm on a plane of ecstasy. I don't have to wait for somebody to tell me what they're going to do with me. I know what to do with me, and I'm doing it. The difficulties I found then and now is that we are operating under something like a literary apartheid. Different areas that we are cornered by or boxed into. First thing that you might find happening if you submit a book to a publisher is that they assume that the writing is going to be about something having to do with protest. You know, you couldn't just simply write about a young woman who's going to college who's trying to get a master's interviewing African American writers. I don't even want to call it discrimination, it's just straight out prejudice. I have prejudged you. I would rather be discriminated against. At least that gives me a level playing field, but don't prejudge, give me a chance.
Odie is much more than a street lit writer, because his stuff kind of touched on that subject, but it goes way beyond that as well. So he's just a great writer.
The one movie that I did write for American International Pictures was called The Ghetto Jet Set. They renamed it the Monkey Hustle for some reason. I don't know why. I call it Hollywood because I was never really comfortable with the idea of how viciously the place operated. I mean, you could have people sign their names in blood and making you promises and assurances and so forth, and you could see them the next day and that whole thing had just simply been forgotten about. At the end of the day, I'm Odie Hawkins, and I'm trying to be the best Odie Hawkins I can be.